Right now someone is testing you, not with an obvious challenge, not with a direct confrontation, with something quieter, a small provocation to see if you react, a boundary push to see if you hold it, a moment of coldness to see if you chase the warmth back, a subtle disrespect to see if you absorb it or address it. They are not always doing this consciously, but they are doing it. Machiavelli wrote that every person who enters your life runs a series of tests before they decide how to treat you. Not because they are evil, because they are human. And humans, before they commit to any dynamic, need to know one thing. Can I break this person? Today you learn the 5 most common tests, and exactly how to pass every one of them. Machiavelli observed something in the courts of Renaissance Italy that applies to every relationship you will ever have. Today we go through 5 specific tests. Each one has a specific signal it is looking for. Each one has a specific response that passes it. And passing them does not require aggression or coldness. It requires only one thing: knowing who you are and behaving accordingly. Test number 1, the small disrespect test. The first test is the most common, and the one most people fail without realizing it happened. It begins with something small, a comment that is slightly off, a tone that is slightly dismissive, a joke that has a sting inside it, a mild interruption, a small dismissal of something you said. None of these are large enough to justify a strong response. That is precisely the point. The test is designed to be below the threshold of obvious confrontation, because if it were obvious, you would have clear grounds to respond. But at this size, responding feels like overreacting, and so most people absorb it. They tell themselves it was nothing. They smile through it. They move on, and the person testing them notes the result. This person absorbs small disrespects without comment, which means larger ones are probably available too. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of addressing small incursions immediately. He noted that problems not addressed at their smallest point do not stay small. They grow, because the absence of a response is itself a response. It communicates that the behavior is within acceptable range, and acceptable range, once established, always expands. The pass for this test is not a dramatic reaction. It is a calm, clear, minimal response that communicates one thing. I noticed that, and I do not receive that here. A raised eyebrow, a pause and a direct look. A simple, quiet, unhurried correction. Not anger, not a speech, just the quiet signal that you are paying attention, and that what just happened registered. That signal, delivered calmly and without drama, is one of the most effective ways to close the door on further testing. The practice: the next time you notice a small disrespect, do not immediately absorb it. Pause. Make brief eye contact. Let the silence communicate awareness. Then, if words are needed, use the fewest possible. The brevity of your response is itself a demonstration of confidence. Test number 2, the boundary push test. The second test is about limits. Every person you encounter is, at some level, mapping the edges of what you allow. Not necessarily with bad intention, sometimes simply to understand where the walls are. But the test is the same regardless of intention. They ask for something slightly beyond what is reasonable. They make a request that requires you to give more than you should. They propose a dynamic that would place you in a position of consistent overgiving, and they watch what happens. If you comply immediately and without hesitation, the map expands. The wall was not where they thought it was. They can push further. If you comply with visible discomfort but no actual refusal, the map expands more slowly but still expands. You will comply. It just requires more pressure. If you decline clearly, calmly, and without excessive apology, the map has a wall. And walls, in Machiavelli's framework, are not barriers to relationship. They are the foundation of genuine relationship. Because a relationship without walls is not a relationship. It is an extraction. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who has no limits has no authority, and the person who has no limits in a relationship has no genuine standing in it. They are simply available, and availability, as we have established, is not the same as value. The pass for this test is the clear, non-defensive, minimally explained decline. Not "I cannot do that because of this reason and that reason, and I hope you understand." Just "I am not able to do that." or simply no, offered without a surrounding architecture of justification. The cleaner the decline, the more clearly the wall is communicated. The practice, this week, identify one request you would normally comply with out of obligation. Rather than genuine willingness, decline it. Use as few words as possible. Notice the discomfort of the short answer. That discomfort is the feeling of a wall being built. It is not the feeling of something going wrong. Test number 3, the emotional reaction test. The third test is about your interior, specifically about how much of your interior is available to be triggered. Machiavelli wrote that the man who controls his reactions controls the room, and the man whose reactions are easily triggered can be operated like an instrument, because once someone knows what produces a specific response in you, they can produce that response on demand. The emotional reaction test works like this. They say or do something that touches a known or suspected sensitivity. They watch the response. If the response is immediate, visible, and strong, they have found a trigger, and triggers once found are filed away. Not necessarily to be used immediately, but to be used when needed, when they want to destabilize you, when they want to distract you from something, when they want to shift the dynamic of a conversation that is not going their way, when they want to make you look uncontrolled in front of others. The trigger is the tool, and your visible reaction is what makes it work. Machiavelli observed that the most powerful figures in any court were the hardest to read, not because they felt nothing, but because what they felt did not automatically produce a visible response. There was a gap, and in that gap, judgment operated. The pass for this test is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of a pause, a breath, a moment of internal observation before the external response. Even a 2-second delay between stimulus and response changes the quality of everything that follows. It communicates that you are not operated by your emotions. You consult them, but you make the final decision about what happens next. The practice: identify your 3 most reliable emotional triggers, the things that produce immediate visible reactions without thought. Write them down. The act of naming them creates a fractional delay the next time they are activated, and that fractional delay is the beginning of the gap that changes everything. Test number 4, the consistency test. The 4th test is the longest one, and the one that most people do not realize is happening, because it plays out over time, rather than in a single moment. The consistency test works like this. They note what you say you will do, and they watch whether you do it. Not once, over time, across different conditions, when it is easy and when it costs something, when there is an audience and when there is none, when the stakes are low and when they are high. Machiavelli was more emphatic about this test than almost any other. He wrote that a prince who does not keep his word eventually has no word to keep, because once the pattern of inconsistency is established, nothing he says carries weight. Everything becomes provisional, contingent on whether this particular promise will be the one he keeps. In your personal relationships, professional life, and every social dynamic you inhabit, your consistency is your currency. It is what makes your yes mean yes and your no mean no. It is what makes people know before they ask what you will and will not do. And it is what makes every commitment you extend genuinely valuable, because it is backed by a track record. The person who passes this test does not do so in a single dramatic moment of reliability. They do so in 1,000 small ones. The meeting they showed up to when it was inconvenient. The commitment they kept when breaking it would have been easy. The standard they maintained when no one was watching. Those accumulations are the test being passed, and the person observing them, consciously or not, is updating their understanding of what you are. The practice: choose one area where your consistency has been unreliable, one commitment to yourself or others that you have allowed to be optional depending on conditions. Make it non-optional for 30 days, not because someone is watching, because you are. Test number 5, the silence test. The 5th test is the one that breaks the most people, because it exploits one of the most universal human discomforts, the discomfort of unresolved silence. The test is simple. They go quiet, not with an explanation, not with a reason that makes the distance understandable, just cold, just distant. just less available in a way that creates a vacuum where the warmth used to be. And then they watch. Do you chase? Do you reach out more than usual to restore the connection? Do you send the message asking if everything is okay? Do you find a reason to be in their orbit? Do you become smaller, more accommodating, more agreeable in an attempt to recover what you seem to have lost? Every one of these responses tells them the same thing. Your emotional stability depends on this connection, which means this connection is a lever, and levers can be pulled whenever a particular behavior or outcome is desired. Machiavelli wrote about the strategic use of withdrawal as a tool for establishing the relative need in a relationship. The party who chases when the other withdraws has revealed that they need the relationship more, and the party who needs the relationship more has less power in every subsequent negotiation. The pass for this test is the most difficult pass on this list. It is to simply not chase, to notice the withdrawal, to feel the discomfort of it, and to return to your own life and your own center rather than pursuing the warmth that has been deliberately withheld. Not out of pride, not out of a game, but out of genuine self-knowledge. The understanding that your stability does not depend on any single person's warmth. That your life is full enough that one person's withdrawal does not create a void. That you were whole before this connection and will be whole if it does not return. That groundedness, more than any other quality, is what the silence test is designed to detect. And its presence is what causes the person testing you to put down the tool. Because the tool only works on people who need the warmth enough to chase it. The practice. The next time someone goes cold without explanation, give them 48 hours before you reach out. Use those hours to return to your own life, your own work, your own circle. See how much of the urgency to close, the gap dissolves, when you are genuinely occupied with things that matter to you. So here is the recap. 5 tests, each one designed to answer the same question. Can I break this person? 1. The small disrespect test. Can I be dismissive without consequence? 2. The boundary push test. Will they hold their limits or comply under pressure? 3. The emotional reaction test. Do they have triggers I can use? 4. The consistency test. Does their word actually mean anything? 5. The silence test. Will they chase if I withdraw? Machiavelli's answer to all 5 was the same. Become someone who cannot be broken by any of them. Not through hardness, not through aggression, through the quiet, steady, undramatic discipline of knowing exactly who you are and behaving accordingly regardless of what is being tested. The person who notices small disrespects without overreacting, who holds their limits without excessive explanation, who feels everything but responds from choice rather than trigger, who keeps their word in the small moments no one is watching, who does not chase warmth that has been deliberately withheld. That person does not pass these tests because they are playing a game. They pass them because the tests have stopped applying, because you cannot break someone who was never available to be broken in the way the test required. If this video gave you something real, share it with someone who needs it. And if you want to keep going deeper, subscribe. We are just getting started.